Welcome to Common Unity. I'm Jason Fox.
And I'm Dr. Gabriel Lewis. And we are bringing the community together with a common unity.
Can't always have a radio voice, eh?
No.
Well, should we get into it?
Okay, we shall. So this guest has got to be the hardest one to date to nail down.
Must be because he's a worker.
Yeah. He's a doer. He's a doer. So, and that's why I think it'd be absolutely great to get on the podcast so other people can kind of see and not necessarily know that you don't need to go down the uni route. So he's got building skills that every male wants, and he's got looks that makes your mother-in-law wish that you were her builder. So welcome on to the podcast. It's much appreciated. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, so who have we got? You're going to tell us who he is?
Yeah, Matt. That might help.
I reckon.
Basis 101 on introduction.
I've been looking forward to this so much. I've got such a good one.
I was holding off the emphasis, so it was like what and anticipation. So so tell us a little bit about yourself. So you work for
what am I? 32. I've been working as a builder, and I always still identify myself as a builder. Realistically, since I was 16, so what's that? 16 years. It's what I've always done. Got into it young, mostly because, to tell the truth, school wasn't for me. Which is the case for a lot of boys.
Yeah, it's not a lot. It's not the place for everybody.
No, turning up to play rugby, and that was about it. So. Like most boys, won't you sort of, get through fifth form and you do your sixth form and you sort of get a year or two of first 15, you're like, oh, well, I'm over this. If you're not going to keep playing rugby, look at what other horizons there are. At the time, to be honest, building just sort of fell into my lap on the fact that I was actually doing a little bit of a gateway experience doing engineering.
Yep.
And sort of came to a pretty quick conclusion that I didn't want to be working indoors with a mask on my face, all day. I was like, oh, well, just go outside.
It's a grind day, literally.
Yeah. So then, had an opportunity to get to, hook into some work, and then realistically, I guess away I went from there.
Yeah. So who'd you start building with?
I'm a Hawke's Bay boy, and started my time with a company down there called Gemco Construction. They're pretty large crew, but back then it was pretty early days for them.
Yeah.
Which was, to be honest, now that I look back at it now, a real blessing. Like, they went from zero to hero pretty quick. So we, as young fellas, young and keen, were given, a lot of responsibility pretty quick, pretty early. Yeah, full opportunities. And the boss had a very sink or swim mentality, So you were, we all sort of did our time. Once you had a bit of knowledge under your belt, you were thrown an opportunity, which was generally in the shape of running a job or sort of being 2IC on like a big job.
Yep.
And by big job, talking 10, 20 million sort of job.
Yeah.
And then so I did that for a while. I would work for them for probably 7 years. And sort of through that time, I did a bunch of things, apprentice of the year, kind of come second that national apprentice of the year would have been about 18.
Is that actually a competition that you enter yourself into to see how you go?
Yeah, well, your boss enters it into it, and any young boys, all the apprentices we train, we always try and get them to, if they're keen, you got to be keen for it because it's competition. You're definitely putting yourself out there to do it, and you sort of get, you got to do a bunch of tasks. They test your practical knowledge, test your industry knowledge,
Was it sort of craftsmanship as well, like some of the more detailed finesse?
Yep, totally. It's a master builders thing, It happens every year, and it's an epic competition, You see all the boys that do it every year, they just froth it. I couldn't recommend it highly enough,
Well, it just goes to show that you don't check a flying fish on its ability to climb trees, everybody has their own skill set, and that's perfect proof. You just hadn't found what you really excelled at or like to do.
I think I'm going to bring you a flying fish home from this week.
Oh, if you
I'm on one base, so we're heading out tonight.
Why? You know what on?
We went out there last year. We destroyed the boat, eh?
Nice.
Yeah, all the sulphur on the paint. So I don't know where we're going to go. There's a lot of logs in the water. So we'll get out. But this guy loves that saying, so I'll bring you one home.
Yeah, I'm half Barbadian, so one of the national dishes is flying fish and cuckoo, so I always use it.
There you are.
So, but it wouldn't work if I said you don't judge a flying fish on its ability to fly, because they do.
True story. We were doing one of our work dues, and I used to always take the boys out for a White Island trip to catch some kingfish with Rick when he was running.
Off the point there.
Yeah, and the first time we ever went, we were all pretty hyped up, and the boys would be on the beers on the trip out, and then he sort of gives you a bit of like a pep talk. He's going to bed. You've got to catch 20 liveys and 20 flying fish, by the morning. Otherwise we're not fishing in the morning, whatever. Yeah. And then anyway, I walked out of the cabin out to the back deck, and a flying fish flew straight at me. I caught it with my hands.
Wow.
It's so good.
It's so cool.
I was like, we're on.
They're used more as bait fish here, but they're actually really delicious to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad used to actually get them and cook them up.
We were catching them in nets behind the boat under
Seriously?
the lights about 1 o'clock at night.
Yes, please. I will take some of those. I'll definitely take some.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I'll learn the national.
If there's room beside all the marlin, of course.
Obviously. Sorry. I'll give you a little bucket, St. Gabs's bucket.
By the time this is out, we'll actually see how we went. But
So back to your growth phase of the Apprentice of the Year.
Yeah, so I would have still been about 20 when I, maybe 19, 20, pretty freshly qualified doing that. And then I guess that sort of, probably give me a little rocket under my belly, in terms of like, a bit of confidence. And then I kind of went through a phase of just, to be honest, and I say it's not even a phase because I'm still a firm believer of it, is just never stop learning, Yeah. And that was probably the biggest thing that I took away from that as a young guy, like, because I'd started so young, I'd actually finished my apprenticeship young, I would have been 20 and I was qualified, where you go, running jobs, you get a little you think you're the man,
Yeah, you've
like,
cracked it.
I've cracked it, woohoo.
Yeah.
Went to that and sort of seen the caliber also of other boys, and it's like, oh, shit, I'm actually not, I've got heaps to learn.
Still a boy. Yep.
Yeah, and then so sort of went down a big route, and still to this day, I've always just consistently finding new avenues to learn. And I guess the difference would be just you're learning whilst you're sort of working, which for me, being I guess a very kinesthetic learner, initially with my hands, it was easy, and then we just started moving more into management. Learning those management skills and putting it alongside realistically what you were doing the whole time, dealing with staff or boys and, other tradies, blah, blah, blah.
So it's a whole other thing to learn. Health and safety, it just never ends, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Just went on and there's few of us I know that have done it, but through that, because I've actually shut some of those courses down, we would have done like the level 4 carpentry, level 4 site supervisor, level 4 leading hand, then site supervisor, then construction management. Then you could do a diploma construction management, then the diploma quantity surveying. If you keep going through them, you actually get a degree at the end of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And you're just doing it the whole time.
Yeah.
Correspondence.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it, though. And it's got information out there, and if you're constantly open to learning, it's like ideal.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in a classroom, though.
No, it's kind of getting paid to learn, isn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's still fees involved, but at least you're earning a wage rather than just racking up a massive debt.
Yeah, definitely. And it's very Pacific learning, and that's one thing that I...
Actually be beneficial.
100%. Because I actually went for a small phase, or I went through like a mindset. I was like, I don't actually got too much more and I can get a degree. That might benefit me, I thought, that might benefit me. So I actually took myself up. I was actually overseas at the time when I had this idea. Came back to New Zealand and I was like, I'm just going to base myself at Massey University in Auckland and I can knock out these papers and I'll get a degree, And it was going to be another year on what I'd done, but year of full-time studying. And to tell the honest truth, I would have done 1 month focused, 2 weeks I was questioning, 2 weeks I was like, this is terrible. Yeah. And like only reason is I was doing a degree in construction management and we were doing calculus papers. And I was like, I've actually got already at that stage 10 years of experience. Yeah, we do not need calculus for this. Yeah. And I'm talking to this tutor who was, effectively, the dean or whatever you call them. got a PhD in construction management. I was like, what sort of jobs have you run? And he'd never run one.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, well, how are you teaching this?
Yeah.
To which he could, to be honest, he could hardly give me an answer. And
Yeah.
I was like, and why do we need calculus for this? And that was actually, I was like, actually, I don't need this.
Yeah.
So in the building trade and engineering and stuff, they always say you need to know math. And I'm in finance, so people say you need to know math and that too. But Excel spreadsheets sorts it all out.
Yep.
So the amount of math, a bit of trigonometry in building?
Yep.
Wouldn't be too much outside of trigonometry?
Yeah, bit of trig, general math, and even like trig these days, you can get apps on your phone, that will just solve it for you. You sort of got to know the general idea of it. And all that sort of mathematics is covered in your apprenticeship, So the boys are on, they already know what's going on.
Plus, you do it a couple of times, then you know it.
Yeah, that's it.
And do you need to do a pre-trade to start off or anything? Like you don't need to go to Polytech for 6 months, so you can just go straight onto the job site and start working.
Yeah, that's a hard one. So I'm always an advocate for putting the boys straight on the job site.
Yeah.
But obviously you have to have that opportunity. Not all boys get that opportunity.
Sure.
So when someone doesn't have that opportunity but they're still committed to, doing an apprenticeship, then I would definitely
Do a pre-trade.
push them down the pre-trade route, get some more skills, so when they present themselves to an employer later on,
Shows they're confident, already taken those steps.
yeah, that's it. They're a little bit further along, so they're not as green.
Yeah. And less likely to walk off the job set after job site.
Exactly.
Sorry. Yeah.
I think Gateway is, or the STAR program, Gateway, I think it's called these days, is pretty key. Getting the boys out real early.
I think it's a good idea. You're finding out and figuring out if it is the right thing for you, and you're not going to find out better than being in the building site.
Oh, definitely. And even with, because we've had a couple of apprentices come through the program to us, and even inside the schooling system, they sort of gear it up that the boys or the kids, they turn up later in the day. Well, not late in the day, but they don't turn up necessarily on site with you. They're only working a day, half a day a week, So we sort of change those parameters for boys that want to come do Gateway with us.
Sure.
So we say you've got to do a full day on Thursday, every Thursday. And your 2-week holidays, you have to work all 2 weeks,
Yep.
Not come for one day, And it's hard because these boys aren't getting paid for this,
Mm-hmm.
But if you can come and punch out, 2 weeks, you're going to learn, see if you want to be a builder. You're going to learn real quick. And then you're also showing that employer that's giving you that opportunity that you're keen.
Sure.
You're actually real keen. Yeah.
There's a good chance that you'd either A, give them a job, or B, put them to somebody that has a job and be like, hey, this kid's amazing.
This kid's on, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many people do you take through? Do you always sort of have an apprentice on the books? Or?
Yeah, always have about two. Yeah,
Two?
so we're not a big gang. We've always got 2 jobs and 2 sort of working jobs. So was an apprentice for each of those jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So what's some of the biggest lessons you've learnt thus far?
Into what, life lessons or building lessons or what?
Both. It's everything. Life translate business, business translate life.
I think consistency. Consistency is key.
Yeah.
You always get wins, and some wins come easy, some don't.
Yeah.
But if you're consistently pushing and you're consistently, head down, then they will come.
Yep.
And always effectively striving, I reckon, for that sort of perfection or that key in all aspects of what you're doing.
Yep. Yeah. One of the biggest reports I got, the perfection side, Gabriel needs to focus less on quality and more on quantity. And in your realm, I laughed at it then, but it's like in your business, nobody cares about quantity. They care about how well you do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And there's always learning those sorts of things too, and how, in our industry, there's learning to know when to really put that effort in, and then what you can also, areas where like efficiency is key too, it's a very hard learning for boys,
Yeah. That comes with skill set and knowledge.
Yeah, definitely,
But if you can't do it well at all,
no.
you won't be hiring them.
That's it. Quality comes first. That's exactly right.
Yeah, definitely.
So we understand that you're self-employed, but when did you take that leap? When did you start your own company?
Yeah, it might have been probably 26. So what did I do? I left the Hawke's Bay probably about 24, maybe 23, 24, something like that, 23. And then went overseas, did a little bit of travel, and then actually got a gig with like a pretty large commercial construction company building the Nandi airport over in Fiji.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. Did that for about a year. And then after that, and that was actually doing that we were working alongside a lot of Australians. A lot of these guys had degrees, you know, and I was probably one of the only younger trade-based guys that had come through and was, you know, part of the management team on this build. And so that's, I think, what I planted the seed to go and do, you know, do some more papers and get this degree.
Yep.
And then so came back to New Zealand, it would have been, so 25, and then based up in Albany, and then started doing these papers. And then, through that process, back in New Zealand, and then that's, I guess, when I was visiting Bay of Plenty, visiting a mate, met Gracie, who's now my wife.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
So you ended up there.
That was it. Ended up down here, and then took a job for a construction company here, quite a big one, and we pulled off a pretty big job for them. I'm not saying any more like names, and they obviously had their systems and they were a efficient crew, but they weren't enjoyable to work for. You know, I didn't enjoy it.
So you're subcontracting to them?
No, I was a project manager for them.
Okay.
Yep. And I sort of said to them, I was like, I'm not, you know, I'll do the job that I've said I'll do for you because I'm, you know, a man of my word. And then post this, I'm going to find something else to do. And then through that, got a sniff with a guy that was building houses at the time, but he was more like a developer, you know, and he was trying to build nicer homes sort of down that Coast Boulevard area, but still. So ended up knocking out a couple houses in a year for him, and then that's what sort of started it, you know.
Okay.
Yep. And it was actually even like a bit of a reconnect in terms of the fact that I'd, you know, been a tool-based boy through, you know, kind of learnt the management side, and then come out the end of it being like, I didn't enjoy management with that. You know, what were key aspects that I have enjoyed, and what have been the highlights of, you know, of my time in the industry. And then once that opportunity came forward, because at that stage too, I actually had a few options, you know, had this, I could take these houses on for this guy, which meant I'd be going self-employed, or I had a couple other, you know, companies knocking on my door saying, I'll come work for us. And then, took the self-employed route. Main thing, you know, sort of reasoning, like, I'm actually keen to, you know, create the environment that I was sort of did my time under, you know, and I really enjoyed it and sort of, you know, helped me flourish. Yep. So it would be being able to provide the same opportunity for, you know, for other young boys come through.
Yeah. So how many years experience did you have at this time?
I'd have been about 26, 27, so 10, 11 boys.
Yeah, wow.
Wow. So still young.
It's very young.
And big time theory too, bro. It's still green as, you know what I mean? You know, so like still heaps to learn, but had 10 years under my belt.
Yeah. But it's good to know that you've got things to learn, but it's also good to actually take the opportunity to actually jump for what you're doing and striving and knowing that you're still going to be continually learning throughout the process. So, which is cool. But I think it's really important to learn how you don't want to work too.
Yeah, that little phase was definitely that, you know. And just mostly environment too, you know. We spend so much of our life working. You've got to be enjoying it, and you've got to be working the guys with you enjoy, you know.
100%.
You know, and like the crew that I did my time in, you know, I think I would have been number 10 employee. By the time I left, there would have been 50 or 60.
Wow.
And our boss used to have like a little jingle. I won't sing it, but it was pretty much FIFO, which means fit in or fuck off. You know, you're either one of the boys and you're all going hard together, or you're not, and you can leave now.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That should be on the front of most companies' doors.
Yeah.
Assuming you got a good boss, not everyone does.
That's the other
Sometimes the boss should fuck off.
There's got little disclaimers. It depends if it's a positive environment or a negative one. If you're one of the negative,
when the whole company goes flat when the boss walks in, that sign's for you, mate.
Excellent. So, how did you come up with the name?
Totara came from my family is all forestry background, so I'd always had like, you know, sort of a line with, I guess, trees, and then Totara is the straightest timber. It's actually also the tallest tree in the forest canopy, you know, so it sits above the others. So it had a bunch of these sort of meanings that you know, I liked about it. You know, straight timber, it's durable. You know, it's good to work with.
So would you say that's your favourite timber to work with?
Well, in this day and age, we don't really, you know,
You don't get to use it. Come on, guys. Pay a little bit more.
It's probably native. You wouldn't be allowed to use it really anymore.
Yeah, pretty
would you?
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it beats for furniture and stuff like that nowadays, you know.
Yeah, if it's fallen over or
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that was sort of the reasoning behind that.
Yeah,
sort of, I
cool.
guess, you know, a lineage to my family, and then, you know, put into a building sort of spin.
Yeah.
So did you have the support of your family at the age of 16 when you're like, hey, I want to actually go and do this apprenticeship?
Yep. Yes, on the fact that my dad he was probably pushed us into work too much, if anything, you know. So my dad's a very hard working individual, you know, and that had been drummed into us real early.
Well, I can see it.
Yeah. You know, like, without going too much older, I guess, spending time with dad was working with dad, you know what I mean?
It was the same thing with me when I was growing up. Dad was a builder. If he was working in the weekend, we were helping him.
Yeah.
But I have to say, those skills have come in handy without realising it, and I just know how to do things even though I haven't done them.
Yeah.
So you can figure out.
I think my dad, if anything, taught me the most would be just work, you know, work ethic, you know.
It's important.
100%.
Yeah. I find a lot of younger people lacking. There's got the odd gems, but on the whole, you might be noticing with certain apprentices that that's one thing that can be lacking at some stages.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I think you've got to teach them to work. That's probably the first aspect, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's hard too. Like, you know, we all grew up. My dad was an engineer / builder. He built the house he's in, done all sorts of that sort of stuff too. So I always grew up in the garage with him doing stuff, got into project cars, learnt that at a young age. You know, 14, I was biking down on my BMX after school to his workshop so I could be bogging up my car and painting it, doing all that sort of stuff. But now our houses are so small, the sections are small, and you've got brand new houses, so you don't have, you know, workshops in your garage. You know, they're not designed to that. So your kids aren't exposed to it because you don't have those tools at home and different things for the average person.
Yeah, it's very true.
We used to, you know. You barely got room for the dog to run around now, so where have you got room to do a project car in your backyard or build a dollhouse?
Yeah.
So I think a bit of it gets lost in that.
That's a very accurate point too.
And then I don't think there's any easy solution to that either.
No. Well, I mean, the solution for me is to buy like a workshop. Well, I need $1 million.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, so like it's a big jump to go, yeah, cool, I want a place to be able to do a bit more of that sort of stuff, and it's not going to be my primary home. So I've got to work really fucking hard for another few years to make that happen somehow. And then my kids would have left home anyway, so they've missed out on that opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, though, even like say from a father aspect, you know, and obviously early days to me, I've just got a 1-year-old, but thinking of opportunities that I had as a young fella like that, I mean, I had no real car knowledge, but with some guys that were older than me, probably by 10 years when at that stage, about 4 of us, started with 4 of us, ended up with 3. We actually put money in every week, and then we were building a rat rod.
Sick.
Yeah.
Sick.
It's actually still down in the Hawke's Bay.
Is it?
Yeah, but it's only like half built.
Ran out of money.
Still.
Ran out of time.
Yeah.
It probably went on for about 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone was putting in, I think it was like $20 a week, you know.
Yeah.
And you just slowly accumulate, you know, and then one of the boys' part of it was, you know, mechanic, so he was kind of the brains. One of the other boys was an engineer, so he would do all the fab work. And then there was 2 of us young fellas, we were just keen to learn, you know, and keen.
Yeah.
And then, to be honest, my dad, he had a big shed, so there's the shed. So it was at the back of the shed, you know, and I built a workshop for us to work out of and stuff like that. And then the other boy, his dad had a wreckers yard, like a wrecker yard, BJ Wreckers down on Ikawa. Yeah.
So you got the parts.
Yeah, so we'd gild the parts, you know, and we would spend nights
Well, I was just about to say.
stripping off parts and, you know, and then other nights trying to fab them all together, yeah.
And that's what we were doing. We're going around our school uniform, going to wreckers because we were doing burnouts in places in Mexico, of course. And you know, we're going through tyres left, right, and centre. And we're just finding tyres outside tyre shops and stuff that are being taken off other cars. Drive over it with a piece of 4x2, clip it onto the tyre, blow it up, go do some burnouts, do it again. You just get real hands on.
Yeah, well, that's it. And finding things you can do, you know. I have found like a lot of people nowadays, they all think they have to have the best of this and that, you know. It's actually like you can do a lot with with what you got.
Yeah.
And being creative,
And it's enjoyable because you're not just sitting on your back watching TV.
Yeah,
You're actually out there doing stuff, learning a skill,
Yeah.
squashing your hand in something.
Well, sometimes when you don't have the money to back you, you've come up with actually a really creative solution to the problem, and it actually often can be better. Because when I was doing the rally car, I didn't have a budget. I was at
No budget over here.
Open checkbook.
No, I didn't have a budget meeting. I had no budget. I bought the rally car for that came across completely wrong. No, I'm not like other building construction.
Oh, to be a doctor.
No. I did the work myself. Dickheads. So I think all up I spent like jack all, but I did all the donkey work.
Yeah.
So and learned a ton, which was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
You're the one who said you didn't have a budget. It's recorded. We can rewind it if you need to hear it.
Like I had no money, zero. Zero, that's no budget. $1 would be a budget. No, joking.
So going back to your business, you obviously started off with the spec, sort of high-end spec stuff, and then it looks like, from what I've seen, you've grown into more the high-end renovation add-on. Is it? Or you're still doing a bit of new build? Or?
Yeah, no, we do plenty of new builds. So I guess when I set out doing that, I thought, what can we do? And then obviously commercial building is, you have capital involvement, stuff like that. Well, that's not happening. I don't like the low spec sort of stuff, and I don't like that hard and fast quality doesn't count sort of stuff. So obviously naturally drifted towards the sort of higher end market, Yep. And then you've obviously got to deliver a high-end product, but then you get to have a lot of relationship with your clients, because you're not delivering lots of projects, So we would Stanley deliver 2 projects a year, so there's 2 clients, and you get to know them pretty well.
Yep.
And, for a lot of these people too, it's like their last home, which I enjoy, So it's like their sort of like...
Forever home.
It is. It's their forever home. It's sort of their... And for some of these, it's like the pinnacle of their
career.
Their career and their success, and they're tipping a lot of cash into what they're doing, So to be able to deliver that for them is, and when it's a real success, is it feels good. It's fun.
You must come into quite a lot of challenges when you get held up with councils or earthworks and stuff when you've only got 2 jobs on, juggling the boys around there.
Yeah, well, that's why 2 jobs, to be honest, because 2 means you can sort of
move between the 2.
Yeah, move between the 2, and then obviously when you're running these jobs, it's up to you to keep your jobs moving. Like, I'm a very firm believer. There's no reason why a job should stop. There's always heaps to be done.
Yeah, sure.
You've got to be going for some serious changes to get held up that you actually have to leave site. So
once you've got a pad in the ground, you're away.
Yeah, you're away. Yeah, that's it.
You can always be working on something and getting ahead.
Oh, totally.
Even if it's a couple steps ahead, but at least you're still working.
Oh yeah, shoot, we've built half-built houses that are going through their 3rd amendment. You know what I mean? And council, and we're waiting for that to be issued, but we've already done all the work. Gets issued, we get an inspection, it's inspected, away we go, close it up, stuff like that. There's heaps of it's always, I guess, trying to find a solution, find an avenue, that to keep that job moving,
Well, I guess the difference is there you believe in your own product, so you can move forward with confidence rather than going, I'm not too sure if we're doing it right here, and sitting on your hands.
And that's just sort of knowing your trade, knowing your industry, and then also dealing with good sub-trades, good other subcontractors, good consultants, so what else is happening behind the scenes is right, and you're not going to stitch yourself up effectively. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think it really comes across with like seeing you communicate with on the grand designs. Obviously, that relationship aspect's a big part of it for you.
Yeah, I enjoy that part, and the beauty of that too is you get to rub shoulders with some pretty neat people.
Yeah,
questionable Sparky though.
Christian was people have said that.
I have to say the painters are high spec.
Shout out to all my boys, all the subbies that we use are good. They're all good guys, do a good job. And they all have relationship. And they all build relationship with their clients, which is all key. And like things too that has been a little bit lost in our industry, like. We do a slab shout. We drink beers on a Friday. We do a roof shout, and the roof shout's not a pizza on a table. You know, it's like you know, beers on from lunchtime onwards. The clients bringing their friends. You know, venison, fish, whatever. You know what I mean? Like we're making it like
excited.
We're trying to make it like it's something. You know, this is like the first little party you're having at your house. You know,
I got a couple of Snapchats from that Grand Design's house from Jasper. And I was like, oh yeah, look, that looks like a good party.
Yeah, but we do it with all our builds, you know. And it's you know, it's a chance too for clients to spend time with all the subbies and also all the boys who are working on their house, and to sort of like, you know, even let their guard down a little bit.
It's a good pat on the back saying job well done, and it's a milestone too.
Definitely. And then, you know, handover party, everyone gets to see it, you meet their friends, and then even from that, from a business side aspect, you get to meet other people, prospective clients, you know. It's all sort of part of it.
I think it's lost as well in culture and jobs, you know, these days, or in businesses. Everyone's going to have some kind of falling out or get pissed off with someone during the week. But when you have that beer at the end of the week, you sort of all just come together and it's water under the bridge. Yeah, so when you arrive on Monday, let's just get back into it.
Carry on.
But if you leave it, you know, it just festers and builds and builds and builds. And then all of a sudden, you know, people don't want to talk to each other on the work side, and, you know, tension builds up. So it's important, that culture.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It must be really huge for you to navigate, or do you have any tips and tricks that you kind of nip it in the butt straight away?
Yeah, nip it in the butt straight away. Squash it, And then I always try and do like team building exercises. I'd like to do more of them, to be honest, but unfortunately, guys, I have a budget.
I've got a huge budget too.
An open one.
No, not even. I don't earn as much as you guys think.
We're not the ones going around telling people we have no budget.
No, I said no budget is none.
But little things like, you know, every year for, say, a work do, I'd like to put on more of an experience, you know what I mean? So it means we're away for 2 or 3 days. It's generally something, you know, most of the boys haven't done ever, you know.
Cool.
So everyone's out of their comfort zones.
Like pottery or something?
Yeah, pottery with Gabe's, you know, behind you.
That caressing colour, making sure you're subluxation
down
free.
Down the Farm Street chiropractor, you know. Manhandled.
No,
by
it's
Dr.
Gab
Gabriel.
handled. Gab handled. It's a different kind of service. I like the fact, like, I had these old work shirts that I was at the party without being there, so it was quite funny.
Gabe's is my what do you call it when someone dresses you? What's it called?
My stylist.
Stylist. So I'm Mr. No Budget over here. I was buying lots of clothes.
Yeah. No, it's called business write-off. It's called.
I was wondering where all the Gucci stuff came from for a builder.
What size shoe are you?
8.
Just pad extra socks. That's cool.
So no, Gabe's gave us a whole bunch of shirts, you know. So we're obviously the boys. We had our party shirts.
They're quite party shirts.
They were very party shirts.
So I'm glad they were used at a party.
But I mean, we've done all sorts of different stuff, you know, from fishing trips out in the boat for 2-3 days, you know, obviously when you're in a confined space, boys get to know each other pretty well, to breathwork clinics, to mohawker rafting trips, to skydiving, bungee jumping, whatever, you know, always things just to get people out of their
bucket list stuff,
Yep, you know, and things that like all the boys wouldn't necessarily do themselves, you know. So like it's fun, everyone wants to do it.
Yeah, I think that's important as a team to do. That's one thing that I'm guilty for not doing enough of, because we're all quite individual. My team's quite older and they've all got things that they want to do, but I want to do more of that. Or I go in to try and organise it. Let's go for a rally drive, we'll take you this, or horse riding, and it's got somebody's like opposed. So I've got to do something that's more of, so guilty of that. But I think it's important.
Especially with guys too, right? Because you almost break them down. You see the skydiving stuff, see the nervous side of them, but you see them push through it, and then they're growing as a person as well.
Totally.
Yeah. So then you get more out of them on the job site next year.
Totally. And you learn things in those few days quite often where, you know, that, like you say, you've worked with these boys for years, and then you hear something and you're like, whoa, I never knew that. You know? I never knew that. And it's just one little thing, and it was one comment, you know. It just came out of that situation.
If you want to learn some stuff about them, bring them on the podcast, because fuck, with the amount of stuff I've learned from mates that I've known for 10 odd years, I'm like, you worked where?
Yeah.
Or it's like you start talking to people and
that's why these open
situations.
conversations are cool with people. You just learn a lot. So, what's some of the things that's really you've learned a lot about over the years?
Building.
Relationships.
Yeah.
Being answers to that. Relationships. Yeah.
So obviously your wife would be a big part of your relationships.
Oh, 100%. You know, you got to have a good partner. You know, you have to. It's key. You know, like there's all those old adage sayings. You know, behind every good man is a good woman. Behind every good woman is a good man. You know.
Yeah.
If you're not pulling together, you're pulling apart.
That's it. Yeah. So and you know, you're a team. You got to work as a team, and that also takes work. You know, it takes consistency. You know, it's not always easy.
Well, it's the hardest relationship you ever have because it's one you care the most about, right?
Yeah, totally. You know.
Yeah.
But when you like I say, when you're working together and then you're both head in the same direction, then you know it makes things a lot easier, and you're on. You know, you can both pick each other up when needed, and it's been very beneficial. And you know, half of what I've done, I would give gratitude to my wife for, and even being in the Bay of Plenty. Do you know what I mean? I would never be here. I was Hawke's Bay fucking like die hard. Seriously, you know. Would never have based myself up in the Bay of Plenty. So and this place has been epic for me. You know.
I love it here.
Yeah. Even
it's
if
a cool
that,
spot.
Yeah, great spot. You know, it's got heaps to offer. And then even just the opportunities that have come, you know, out of being in this place, you know, it's been awesome. Yeah.
Is your wife involved in the company at all? Or?
Yeah, she does. My wife is the interior designer, and she does
a very good one too.
Yeah, a lot of interior work for my clients, which is good.
Yeah. So that runs as her own business?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And so I always just refer my clients to her, and most of them take it up, which is good.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
And then she does things too, like, you know, Instagram and stuff. I can't be bothered doing that sort of stuff, to be honest. So she does all of that, which is good. And it's those little things that all help, you know. Gracie's pretty clever with graphic design and all that sort of things, you know. So, like, I don't know, right down to, like, say if you approach me to do a build for you, we have like a little information pack, a wow pack, we'd send it out to you. Things like that. She'd do all that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah, nice.
Which is like, it's like a nice touch.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks it's coming from me, but no, that's not me.
God, it's from your business.
It's coming from the business. Yeah.
That is from you, but you're not actioning.
No.
Yeah.
So,
I get it.
Yeah.
It's cool. Well, that's the thing. You do have to work as a partnership, as a team, and work in the one direction to kind of achieve your goals together, because you're going to achieve way more by working together.
Oh, definitely.
No two ways about it.
Definitely.
And that'll be a big part of filling your own personal cup too, as to why you can do what you do.
Yeah, and you sort of also, you understand what pressures each other are feeling at times, you know what I mean? I always find that beneficial.
Yep.
You know, sort of know what's going on. So, you know, if you're having to, you know, work a lot or whatever, just to, you know, get something across the line, you're not getting questioned for it or what, you know, like, this is just what's happening in terms of it's just a phase, it's just a stage. Need to do it, and then you can take a trip or, you know, spend some more time together, whatever, you know. But you're on that, you're sort of moving, navigating through that together.
Yeah. I actually, I found a guy called Kiwi Dad. Have you heard of him? He's actually a Tauranga guy, so it's not How to Dad guy, but he's Kiwi Dad. So he's talking about some budgeting stuff. But he's talking the other day, like every time he walks into the house, he just goes to the wife like 7, and she'll be like 3. He's like, okay, shit, she's a 3. Okay, I'll get dinner on. And they're just by that number system, as soon as they walk in the door, they're like, okay, I need to do a little bit more today. Like they're just gauging how their day went, sort of where they're at with things.
Right.
That's actually a really good one.
Before you get into anything and get stupid about it, just throw a number out there. Okay, cool, I'll get onto that.
Yep.
If you can tell me about it later over dinner, and you just, you know.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Yeah,
it's a great idea.
It.
Yeah.
My wife's not home in time for me to have to ask her number, but
maybe at night time.
while I'm tucking her in. Which nursery rhyme would you like tonight, Dave? But no, it's a good one. I think more people.
It's a really good thing. And do you do anything outside of this to fill your own cup?
Yeah, definitely. What do I like doing? Love surfing. That's like, you know, my most thing. I'd chase waves, but then to be honest, rock with a moto.
Yeah.
do a bit of mountain biking, and yeah, I like that.
See, these are things I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, do a bit of hunting, Jasper. You know, I definitely quite like an aspect of being self-sustainable and sort of like a hunter-gatherer sort of thing. So do some random stuff you might not know, Gabes. Grow heaps of veggies out the back of our house.
Epic.
Yeah. So like, you know, I'm a real firm believer we eat all our own meat that I shoot, eat all our own veggies that I grow. Just little things like that I like, you know.
Oh, you have to come around to what we've done.
Yeah. I can check it out.
I love that kind of stuff. Like, I didn't realize I loved it until my wife got into it. And then I'm out on a Saturday, the sun's beaming in, and I'm out there weeding, and I'm loving it. Like, you know what I mean? You just have such a good time being out in the garden.
It's more just eating your own produce, you know.
Oh, yeah, and it's the positive too.
Yeah, that's
passion to it. My mate's a builder in Auckland, and I called up to see him at his new place, and pretty much arrived there. He's like, bro, come check out my veggie garden. He's like, check out these tomatoes, try one. It's like straight away, you know. It's like not all the pool he's put in and everything. Like, it's a beautiful pool. I'm like, oh mate, show me the pool. He's like, come out to the veggie garden first.
have a look.
This is what really matters.
Check out these cherry tomatoes.
Yeah, I'm quite proud of the hydrangeas I've planted down the driveway. My overall goal in 3 years is to make a rainbow driveway. I want to change the pH.
How very inclusive of you.
Oh, and that's not a 2023 reason why. I just want to do that anyway. So,
and then things too, you know, like say you've had a real busy week, and you might have even had to punch a sad day, and you're kind of feeling a bit like, oh, you know, I'm just grinding here, and then, you know, take the moto out on a Sunday and just flip and give it death, you know.
Yeah.
You come back just, you know, ear to ear, and then like littlest reset, you know, and you're just like, oh yeah, this is all good. That's all good. Yeah.
Well, you can't think of, you know, I do a bit of mountain biking too, not as much as I used to, more golf now, but when you're flying through trees, you can't think about that customer that pissed you off on Thursday or something. You're just like, if I don't make this corner, this is going to hurt.
Yep.
You know?
Exactly it.
And your mind's clear for like 3 hours, and you're like, oh.
That's why you both need to do jiu-jitsu. Yeah. You got a dude on top of you, giving you a cuddle, fulfilling your cart,
sold with a dude on top of me,
sweating on you, trying to choke you out, and you're having the time of your life.
No wonder my wife always looks so happy. Love you, babe.
Jiu-jitsu.
I didn't know what it was called, but yeah, it must be what I'm doing.
You just feel better.
We're learning a lot about you tonight. Yeah.
I think I'm the butt of most jokes. I am anyway, so I don't care. Excellent.
So, how was the grand design? That's quite a pinnacle sort of thing. Well, it's not something you'd often see in New Zealand. You know, we don't have much in the way of television here for the average Kiwi. What was that process like? Yeah,
it was a very interesting process to be part of. We had to effectively sign a disclaimer at the start of the job. It wasn't anything that we had organised or anything either. It was actually the clients, if you haven't seen it, they're POMs. So, you know, grand designs for POMs it's huge. It's huge.
Pinnacle of TV.
Yeah, it is. And then you know, it's something that they had sort of tracked down, and they wanted to put their build on grand designs, and even to be honest, through the sort of preliminary phase of taking that job on, it actually still wasn't mentioned.
Okay.
And then towards once we'd sort of looking at, like, you know, we're kicking off in February, that it started heading down the track. We actually got to start sorting this out because it's going to go on grand designs. I'm like, whoa, okay. And I was surprised that they had gone down that route, because we'd had a build for about 2 years prior that grand designs were actually approaching the client and were trying to get the build on, but the client wasn't interested. And then they were sort of actually approaching us, trying to get us to swing the client's vote.
More of a humble client. That was
they were the latest that want to showcase it. And to be honest, it wasn't even just on that comment, on like humble, like the client that was on the grand designs, they were the most awesome people, you know.
Yeah, they looked at, you know.
Yeah, they were as humble as they could.
Housed you, did all the rest of it.
Everything, They really, you know, they were awesome people, you know. People to learn from, you know, and actually take some serious life lessons from. Yeah, they were pretty cool.
You could tell that is how they come through. And then I got told, I said I've got another client, friends actually. they're doing this big build, and it's phenomenal property. It's got a couple beaches on the land and everything. I was like, you've thought about doing grand designs? He was like, nah, that program's cursed of making you go over budget. And I have to say, well, actually, I've got a client that actually was one of the builders for it, and I was so impressed how they were completely on budget.
Yeah.
It was pretty impressive.
I think the over budget is clients just actually throw a number out there of where they think it is rather than actually getting a quantity surveyor to work the numbers. So
Yep.
in most cases, right?
Yeah, and then sometimes I think the budget aspect of it can be, dramatised.
Yeah.
Like you
for
say,
TV.
that's it. The project might have had multiple changes.
Yeah.
And yet they don't highlight that. They just highlight the fact that the project cost more than was originally budgeted for.
I saw a grand signs of basically a croissant shaped building, and it was massively over budget. But I knew it was going to be way over budget because of how much work is involved with creating it. Everything's hand done.
It's a big pastry.
The big pastry, no two beams are the same.
Yeah.
It's a huge job.
A lot of the projects, though, you see, and I'll say this for, I guess, any prospective client that would be listening, that's thinking of doing a building project, just stay out of it. Seriously, the boys are professionals. You look at half these projects, they've gone over budget. Old mate, he thinks he can run it. He can't run it. He's never run a project in his life.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he's got his
Holds all the trades up. All
That's
the other
it. He's
things,
got all the pricing together. He's missed half his trades, and he doesn't know how to put those prices together. And the fact that how they're layered, different times in terms of when people come in, but actually also smaller costs that build quickly on a big project that are in part of getting all these trades to move through efficiently through some of these houses. So if you just went like, I need a plumber, electrician, roofer, whatever, and just got these individual prices and put them together and that's your price, well, you're going to be drastically off.
Yeah.
And then so that's why I say, give it to the boys who know what they're doing. Give it to a tried and true tested builder. They know what they're doing, and leave it to them.
And plus, they've got people that they trust to do the
That's
work.
it. Yeah.
And go about how you earn your income.
Yeah, exactly right.
You might earn $100 an hour. Your tradie might be $100 an hour.
Yeah,
but they'll do a lot more on that hour than you ever will. So go about doing what you do.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah. So.
What about the film crews? Did they hold the job up or anything? Because you'd almost imagine that, we're going to be here on site. Can you just wait to lift that beam in or anything like that?
The film crews were actually, everyone was pretty good that was involved, We obviously write a program for all our jobs, so their job had a program.
Yep.
They would even down there and bring us up. They probably came down about once a month, and they'd be like, when inside this month is a good time to come down, like when's a bit of action going to be happening. So we'd like, come down this day.
Yep.
Or these few days, and this will be happening. So they'd fly down, and then especially at first when we were staying there full time, they would stay with us.
Okay.
So it was always, you got to know a few of them,
Cool.
which was quite cool.
Yeah.
And even then, it was interesting to learn how, I guess, TVNZ works, because they're all just contractors too. Even right down to the director, he's just a contractor.
Yep.
Just doing their job. So it was good. And like I said, so they'd just come down, they'd just shoot the boys all day. So at first, don't get me wrong, definitely it was pretty odd, You've got a bunch of boys cruising around with cameras and microphones sort of hanging over the back of your head.
Yeah. You're a natural now.
What's the go here?
Well, you had my mother-in-law going, "Oh, yummy."
Okay.
I said my mother-in-law, not me. She's a female.
But I mean,
I was like, he's taken.
I'm taken. Yeah. But lots of little things, learning to speak slower is probably one for me. I always speak really fast, mumble my words. So, every now and then they'd ask you to talk. And to tell the truth, even I guess if we've ever seen it, I speak a little bit on there, but they took lots of shots, in terms of they'd ask you to explain what was going on, like a lot.
Yeah.
So
you'd have to redo it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, every now and then. Yep. And then one thing that I always actually was quite an eye opener was kudos to the presenter and people that do that, in that industry, is quite often would have a natural conversation and they wouldn't record it, and then they'd be like, all right, he'd call over a camera and be like, let's redo that. And I'd be like, I can't redo that.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, just follow my lead, And then this guy would almost repeat word for word what he had just talked to you about.
Yeah,
and
so you just follow the...
Yeah, and he'd just sort of cox you along, and
Yeah.
you'd sort of just, and you'd sort of repeat, obviously not necessarily word for word, but you'd just sort of repeat the conversation you just had,
The
Okay.
gist.
Yeah, and I was like, man, that's
Very clever.
that's pretty clever, yeah, because I have a conversation and walk off and one ear out the other to some degree, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. But I guess because for you as well, because it's just something you know and it's real. It's not like it's something you're trying to study and do a speech for.
No,
it
that's
is easy. Just follow that lead and talk again. It's pretty much what you're doing now.
Yeah.
We're just asking questions and it's coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a good experience. In terms of even right down to when it aired on TV, we got all the boys around. Had beers, had barbecue.
Yeah.
And just same to even the bond over again. All the subbies come over. It was neat, and even right down to, a lot of subbies that there's a lot of people involved in those bigger jobs. Guys turn up to your house to, for a barbecue and have a beer. That you ultimately you would never actually socialise with. So that's sort of neat, bringing people together. And the biggest thing is obviously at the start of that we had to sign a full disclaimer that whatever they filmed and whatever they,
Couldn't be spoken about. Yeah.
oh yeah, that's it. So we had no idea what was going to be
Portrayed.
How they portray you.
Totally.
Yeah. And you see that in
The
reality
editors.
TV all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not really how it happened, but...
no.
Or we'll put these clips together of reactions that were actually from the show before. Yeah.
So
Obviously not so much in the building show, but you can see how it's all twisted to
yeah,
dramatise the show.
totally. 'Cause we actually had that a couple of times where the director during the build was like, man, he's like, we don't even really have a show here in terms of like,
No drama.
there's no drama.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
just sort of filming,
Can you, Hiab, can you just drop that over there?
But this is how a building site should work, guys.
Well, that was what I said to him. I was like, the building can be, there can be this sort of underlying theme that it's all, over
and
budget,
chaotic.
overtime, dramas,
Stressful.
dramas with the builder. Like no way. These lots of boys and lots of different companies that can provide an excellent service, and that build process is enjoyable, and building is thoroughly enjoyable, and for everybody, whether you're the one doing it or the one just being part of it.
Yeah, we love it.
It's a great experience.
I actually want it to be, if I had to go back and do my life again, I'd probably go and do a trade and be a builder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Because like what I do, I don't get any feeling of accomplishment at the end of the day, right?
Right.
I can save someone's business, or I can
that's
start
accomplishment.
someone in business. But at the end of the day, I don't look back and go, oh, that's what I achieved today.
But you got to shift your perspective, though.
Yeah, but it's just nice. Like I've done, I've sat on a roller and done some earthworks where someone's been on a digger and rolled out a section for a day. I'm like, man, there was a 3 meter bank there and now it's all flat. Like, oh, that was cool. Like just the little jobs.
Yeah.
You actually really appreciate. And
Yeah.
and that's why you love your garage.
Oh, yeah.
You get
big
home
time.
and you do a little bit of stuff. I need to get a fucking garage. What am I doing with my life?
I can rent you out a corner. 5 square meters.
How good.
Premium price. No. I got to pay for rally somehow.
That
I
open
got zero
checkbook.
budget. Touche. No, excellent. So has there been anything that you kind of wanted to cover or off that we haven't kind of covered?
I guess the one thing I thought about the most when you said you wanted to talk to me and then talk about obviously, not having attended university and sort of heading down a trades path is very much highlighting the fact that, is to never stop learning. You're not heading into the trades because it's easier. You're not heading into the trades because you have to do less theory-based work. Sure, you're going to have to do less paperwork initially, but if you wanted to really take that career somewhere, you got to just have that commitment to never stop learning, and that carry that right through,
I think it's important for life in general. It's a good life lesson because even the amount of times I've seen you even not only working on your clients' work, you're working on your own projects too, and kind of not grinding, I don't like the word grinding sometimes, but just really hard working, just getting ahead and kind of more relentless with your long-term vision is really impeccable. But it's just constantly learning too.
Yeah, but I think, getting good people around you, they always talk about having people you surround yourself with,
Yep.
from your friends to your family to, outside people that you might just go and have, a coffee with or a beer with, who might have a bit of chat to you, from some financial advice to a lawyer, some contractual advice, whatever, and just sort of leaning on all these sort of contacts that you might have.
Yeah, don't try and do it all yourself. Yeah.
That's it, because the reality of it is you're never going to know it all, and you're always going to, if you're consistently growing what you're doing, you're always going to need to be growing yourself. But like I said, you got to just be leaning harder and harder on the people that know the stuff to sort of either get the information, A, or B, just pawn it off to them,
Yeah.
delegate. Yeah.
So have you had a mentor or anything at any points in time, or some people that you pick up the phone and call and talk to and just, hey, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Probably had half a dozen. Not like full on mentors, but like guys who
respect.
Yeah, mega respected and then persisted. Even some guys, I've just actually, if anything, persisted on approaching them and gleaning information from them, and then always asking questions, to the point of actually, sometimes you piss people off. Fuck off,
Yeah.
But
they're never the right ones for you.
That's it. And then when they actually start to see, like, hey, hang on, he's actually doing what he's saying, and he's
then they'll naturally go,
that's it. And
they weren't wasting my time.
That's it. He's not wasting my time. Yeah, hang on, I'll I'm happy to divulge information, because it's not on deaf ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the traits of billionaires is conversation as they listen. Don't sit there. If you're talking, all you're doing is talking about yourself. But let the other person talk and learn from them. Yeah. The more you can listen, the more you learn, the more you pick up. The more successful ultimately you'll be.
One of my biggest mentors, indirect mentors over time, where I've taken most inspiration from, is being a builder, and highly impressive guy. It's phenomenal what he's created. And he's just same thing, hardworking. He's the kind of guy. He's a big multi-million-dollar company, and they need a deck done. You wouldn't know that he was the boss. Yeah. He was down there putting the screws in because they were a little bit behind schedule, and he just did it. He didn't tell them to get faster. He just was like, let's go.
I'll make it happen.
Yeah.
You man too, like a lot of guys in our industry, and not even having to run big, massive, multi-million-dollar companies, but like touching on all aspects. They're doing a bit of property development. They're doing some specs and holding on to them. They're using what resources they have put to work.
This is he started from ground up, and he's gone through. And I even called him like a few months ago. Hey, what would you do in this situation? Do this. Yeah,
and the fact that he still took your call,
Oh yeah. And I don't call him very often, but sometimes I do. Yeah, that's cool.
Only when you need a deposit into the checking account.
Huh?
For your rally car sponsor.
Oh no, I wouldn't dare ask. I'd be like, fuck off, Gabs. That's exactly his words. He'd laugh. He'd be like, you're dreaming, buddy.
But you're right. That's what I've always loved about the building is the development, everything that comes alongside of it.
Yeah,
and we've got 2 houses being built at the moment, and it's like what you were just saying. With what you're doing, getting to know the builders' trades. I haven't met the painter, I haven't met the plasterer, I haven't met anyone bar the person running the job. And I've walked into it like 3 times. And when we built our house, we were in it every week. Like, oh, hang on a minute, what's happening with that wall? But I'd like to be more involved in those, but you kind of health and safety or stay off site now, and they make it a little bit harder on some of those job sites. But it's cool because it is such a passion. You're spending a lot of money, like you do want to see it. You don't want to go in there and say, hey, don't do it, or you're doing it wrong, but you still want to see the process.
Yeah.
Because it's over 4 or 5 months of your life, and if you're doing a few, it happened quite a lot. Like,
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And if you, like you say, if it's even for when you're teaching boys too, it's actually a fair reminder on that, you're spending someone's hard-earned money, and that this is actually expensive stuff. This is the price of a car. You wouldn't go and scratch that car, would you? You'd be shocked. So why would you do that here? Because it's the same cost, and just sort of ingraining that into guys, this learning the value of stuff, which I think comes down to respect as well, to be honest.
What we're learning is the holding cost of holding finance while the builds are pushing out by 4, 6, 8 weeks while the interest rates are going north.
Yeah,
That's been fun. So we'll be opening a Give a Little page, to a Patreon account to support common unity.
It's not my house. Half the funds can go towards the compound. Around the account, I've got 0 funds.
That's brilliant. That's
Excellent.
brilliant.
So we've always got this thing where we kind of ask a question around the end of the podcast. So is there any advice you'd give your younger self?
Oh, that's a good question. What would I tell myself? Trust yourself more, I reckon, but also, lean on others. I've always probably tried to do too much myself, and if anything, it's actually handbraking you, in the time you think that you're advancing yourself, but
Yeah, you're trying to cut costs, but actually you should be out there on the tools, but you're doing this thing that...
Yep.
Yeah.
You're actually, So that'd be probably the one thing I would say.
Yeah.
Is actually learn to go and get help sooner
Yeah.
versus just trying to smash it yourself,
Yeah, stick to what you know and let the others, professionals, do what they do.
Yeah, that's it. And even down to work volume, once you start getting to a point where you're like, oh yeah, I can do this, but then next thing you know, you're just working like a madman. You're like, well, there's no fun in that,
Yeah.
It starts taking the joy out of it, but bringing others in, schooling others up, educating others, whatever.
Yeah.
That'd probably.
So is your goal overall like to keep it more boutique, Totara?
Yeah, I think so. I love the high end. I definitely, there's another aspect to what we do. It's not a Totara, but we have a couple other smaller businesses which are just more investment businesses doing develop to hold projects. Always be keen to push that.
For yourself or for others? Yeah.
For myself, but it's one thing I've been sort of fleshing out. I've done it all to myself to date, and it's been good. But like you say, with rising interest costs, bank lending criteria getting more and more tricky to get, second tier lending, financing getting dearer and dearer, rewind 5 years, it was pretty easy to get.
Yeah.
And it was actually flipping cheap when you think about it now. Now, it's getting expensive.
But that's where the opportunity is too.
Yeah.
So what you need is the private investor.
That's it.
Come along with I'm also looking for some. But any
Don't come to the compound.
That's it.
I hear there's a few cars there to sell. No budgets on them, so it must be pretty nice.
Yeah. But and would be sort of heading down that route, Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always sort of been my goal, realistically. And my goal was always to sort of build to 40. And then it's a hard game,
Investment.
to be honest.
Investment. I'll build to 40 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. Build to about 40. It's a hard game. It's a young man's game, And then I'm not talking about you shutting down shop and closing the doors, but just being able to, in a position like that then you could, offer opportunity to other young guys, that they, took on what you were doing, and where there was aspects of, profit sharing or ways that you can help people, flourish inside what you were doing.
Yeah.
And sort of, realistically focus on...
I think the key with sort of what you do is almost selling 10% of your business off for X amount of years until someone takes it outright or takes the workload off you, or because it can be quite hard, because in a lot of ways you are still the business when you're smaller, right? You don't have a management team that if you go on holiday your business runs. So it gets very hard to get a multiplier on a price to earnings sort of multiplier. So
that's it. If I was out, it'd be done.
100%. And my mate's just gone through that in Auckland where he's just wound it up. He had 16 guys on and he's like, screw it, and he's doing developments and pools now.
He's actually wound it up.
He's got 2 guys on till the end of the year and he's walking away from it. And he's coming up 40 as well. He would hate me saying that. He's probably 38. But he's younger than me.
And that's because it's a pretty high stress industry,
Yeah.
I would definitely say that. I've seen that with people who have stepped into our industry at the later end of life and then hit into management early because they might have studied or something, not quite realise what they're getting into. And you're very accountable.
Sure.
And it's very full noise, So you're either full commit or you're out. And if you're somewhere in between, you'll get burnt out quick.
Yeah.
But so that would be always an aspect. And then I'd always had an idea, because when I think back you know, from that initial guy that sort of gave me those 2 houses to build, you know, that was an opportunity from a guy that had cash to do something, you know, and that got me going, you know. So I always thought I'd like to be able to be that guy,
someone else
that I could give a young fella an opportunity, you know, that would get him going, you know.
Sets up his whole family and
That's
generations
it, you know,
to come.
and away he goes, you know. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you've actually come on the podcast, because when we started this, my goal was, like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I always listen to podcasts in America, and, you know, they create an app or something. People in the podcast begin sick of hearing it, but you haven't heard it. So, you know, they get a valuation for $30 million. They buy a house in Florida and a few Lamborghinis. Yeah. I'm like, cool story, bro. How does that relate to a Kiwi?
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's thousands of people coming out of college right now or starting trades, and the tradie story is always such a good one of how they worked hard, were able to start a business, and then where they got to from thereafter, and following that journey. So yeah, it's nice to actually finally 24 episodes in get a tradie on here.
Yeah, he was on my list from day dot. That's how persistence, and that's where I'm gratitude for you coming on. So thank you so much. It's been
for having me, Joe.
Excellent, and I knew a lot of people from young to old will take a lot away from this, even if it's just your work ethic, positivity, or just even the ability to actually grow people too. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, much appreciated.
All right. So how do people find you if they want to find you? Social medias, want to build a house with you? Like,
check us out, Totara Construction on social media, or if anyone wants to ask me any questions or anything, just send me an email, Matt, you know, at totaraconstruction.com, or get on the phone and just ring me up. You know, any boys that know playing our game, I spend half my day on the flipping phone, so that's the easiest way to communicate with me. Just ring me and I'll answer.
Email's no good.
And you got a couple of jobs on now. Someone's looking at doing a high-end reno or building a new house soon. Like, when can you flip someone in? Next year? Or?
2024.
Yeah. So, you know, if you're talking to your architect now, it's a good time to start talking to your builder and make sure you can fit in.
Yeah, definitely. And get the builder on there early in the process.
Yeah. Because the architect and builder need to work together, right? If it's the wrong energies, it's probably not going to flow.
Yeah. But even just getting the builder early in that process will help smooth stuff out for sure.
Yeah.
Better get on you for the Queenstown project.
It's got no budget, so
it's in 10 years' time. 10 years' time, I've got goals. Hard work. Wife's back to working. So thanks again. It's much appreciated. Yeah, it's epic.
All right. Well, thank you. Cheers.